Welcome, Hard Knocks. KK the Destroyer here, coming at you live from the ESPN 8 studio. Uh, got a quiet little podcast today. In the house with me, I got Greg,
Hey guys, how's it going?
Lions Lions coach, coming off of a big win today, playing Niles' Titans. So that was a nail biter, huh?
Yeah, it's a close game. He's pretty good. He's a lot better than his record shows. He runs a very annoying offense, which I told him. I blatantly told him that.
Well, that's a good win. I got my game here coming up against the Chargers. I think around 7 my time, so 7 PST. Um, Looks like it'll just be Greg and I tonight, just like old times, Greg.
Yeah, it's been
I
a
mean,
while since it's been just you and me, I think.
it has been. It's been a real long while.
Madden
Nobody,
20, maybe?
yeah, nobody to interrupt us with like 3 minutes of wrong. Like it'll be great. So today, on the agenda here, I think what we're going to do is we're going to go through, check out some of the stats for the season so far, kind of talk about who's doing what and how well they're doing, as well as we got a quick little top 10 Greg put together, and then we'll round out with a recap of the contender pretender segment that I did earlier in the season. Maybe I can take a few lumps. I know there's a few guys out there that are kind of chomping at the bit to make me eat my own words, so we'll get into that a little bit, but hopefully we won't take up too much of your time. So we're going to go ahead and start out at the passing leaders for the NFL here. No surprise, we got Tom Brady, who's actually closing in. Actually, he did just take the TD record this season with 57 TDs, breaking Peyton Manning's 55 TD record. And his INT to TD ratio is legit. Like he's basically, what is that? It's not 2 to 1. It'd be like almost 3 to 1.
Almost 3 to 1, yeah.
Yeah, almost 3 to 1 with 70% completion rate percentage. But that's what happens when you have hot route master. You can just make any play you want at the line of scrimmage. So Jern's doing work there, 4,500 yards. And then the next closest appears to be Jalen Hurts with the Eagles, which I'm not sure if the Eagles had played their game today or not. So I think some of these are going to be a little messed up. What were you going to say?
Not sure if he's played or not. I'll take a look
Um,
real quick.
Because I think there's only 3 games that have been played, but he's doing really well. And then, of course, your own Matthew Stafford closing in on 4,000 yards, another good TDI and T ratio, 39 TDs, 17 interceptions. But the interesting thing I thought about Tom Brady was that he is doing what he's doing, and that's with um, what at the time was about 67 fewer attempts than the next closest guy. So as we can see here, if I scroll back down, yeah, he's sitting at 308 total attempts, and
Hmm.
uh, let's see, the next closest guy I think was Hertz, and he had, well, let's see, 320. Where
Look at
did
Stafford's attempts.
where did where I'll have to scroll through and see where you're at. You're way low on attempts. Is that the deal you're trying to tell me?
Mm,
What
pretty
is
low.
he? You're gonna have to
For
tell me
third in
because
passing currently, 250.
250 attempts, so that's really good. I was looking for Jordan Love because I know he was doing really, really well. I thought when I was going through this list, but I guess he's got 3,300
242.
yards. He's got a really good
Yeah,
TD to
242 attempts.
INT ratio as well. So I guess the stat that I was looking at must have just been generally speaking. Tua's got 383 attempts, and so Tom Brady was doing it with significantly fewer and having a great season because of it. But still doing the Lord's work there, and apparently you are too. And then I was also taking a look at their completion percentage, and this was a little tougher to kind of look at, just because we got a lot of guys with a high one, but that's because they're not attempting as much. But Gardner Minshew, which is penalty, um,
Go
great
figure.
completion percentage. Yeah, I know, go figure, 78%. Still getting 280 attempts, so he's definitely getting over 200 attempts at throwing the ball, whereas you got guys like Bridgewater and then Trubisky who don't really count because they're not over 200 attempts anyway. But Gardner Minshew doing really well, Baker Mayfield doing really well. His TD to INT ratio not great though. I mean he's basically even money, but he seems to complete a lot of passes. That's that's kind of interesting. And you have a really good TD to INT ratio or completion percentage. My bad. Got too many things running around in my head right now. 68%.
Game's
So
very offensive driven, so I'm
yeah,
not.
and
You know better than anyone that I'm not a passing
oh,
Madden kid.
absolutely.
I prefer to grind it out, and my quarterback rating is extremely high too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of these stats are going to be kind of lopsided since the patch was so late coming into the game. So I mean, the patch has only been out for the last few weeks, right? Like
Yeah, the last two gameplay weeks.
like
Yeah,
last two gameplay weeks. So basically, you have over 10 weeks of broken defense. So a lot of these stats are going to be inflated, but still, I thought,
yeah. Next year will be a telling tale,
oh,
definitely, as to
absolutely.
who's a good passer. My stats will be nowhere near this good next year. I'd be lucky if I passed for 30 touchdowns through 17 games next year. So we'll see.
Yeah, and I agree. I'll put myself in that same category because, Derek Carr, when have I ever had a positive TD to INT ratio? I'm at 32 and 16. That's 2 to
You're
1.
balling out too. You see
Yeah, and
everybody. Like, look at all these. Remember in Madden 20,
hmm
over half the league had negative touchdown to interception
yeah,
ratios. I'd be willing to bet half the league or even more has a positive ratio right now. One,
I
two, three,
I
four,
would
five,
bet you're
six.
pretty close. I mean, you have the outliers like Drew Lock, who's thrown 40, Kyler Murray, Dwayne Haskins, Aaron Rodgers, 23 and 36, but he's pretty new to the game. Jay Stoppers, Sam Darnold's even money, Baker Mayfield, and
20. We've got
Mikey's,
20 guys that are positive, more
which is,
touchdowns than.
yeah, I think in preceding Maddens it was much lower than that. You might have had 5 or 6. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of guys doing decent, and it'll be really interesting to see these guys with the high INT totals come into the season next year because obviously with
Mm-hmm.
defense playing better, like they're going to be astronomically higher, myself included. So, but yeah, that's pretty much where our passing leaders are at there for positive stats. But I did want to single out Drew Lock. I mean, that's our Broncos owner, which that's what E Harmonic, 40 ints, man. Like, what is he throwing at? That's all I. That's the only question I got for him. And I was
Gotta call
surprised
harmonica.
is that Gardner Minshew had 12 ints. I mean, he has the fewest ints in the league, right next to Daniel Jones. I mean, that's 12 and 13. I mean, it's not a surprise for Gardner to be that low because that's Penn. He usually doesn't make too many terrible mistakes. But shout out to who is that? Deshaun, the designer, the Giants owner, with only 13 ints as well. And then,
Well, hang on. I gotta give a little love to Mikey, I guess. He doesn't pass a lot, but his quarterback is Philip Rivers, 15 touchdowns, only 11 interceptions.
yeah, the real difficult part of that is he did trade for Dak Prescott at Week 8, so we kind of can't like he was doing work with Philip
Oh, you're
Rivers,
right. Oh,
and
he's
then
doing terrible with Dak. Never mind. I
well,
retract my statement.
but we don't know. That could, I mean, a lot of these ints could be from the previous Cowboys owner,
Oh, that's true too.
right? I mean, so it's hard to say where he's going to be at um, in all of this. But he was doing really well with Philip Rivers at the time, so um, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, Stafford and Lamar and Derek Carr all with the 2 to 1 ratio. So quarterback's doing pretty well, but we'll see how the rest of the season plays out. Then we can kind of roll over to sacks, and I thought this was an interesting category. Um, Aaron Rodgers getting sacked 38 times, Gardner Minshew taking massive sacks with 35, uh, San Francisco, Colin Kaepernick 35, Tyree Jackson, like a ton of guys with massive amounts of sacks, which isn't really a surprise, but the way the game is, really, really pass heavy, and defense being so broken, I expected it not to be that high. But on the flip side, you got the Panthers, which is C Dev's Jordan Love. He's the of the qualifying guys for like so many attempts of about 200. He's got 10 total sacks. So I mean, he's getting sacked less than once a week. So he's getting rid of the ball
Hmm.
fast.
I'm getting sacked a lot.
Yeah, Arya, what are you getting sacked at?
25. I'm up
Jeez.
there.
Yeah, but that's because you like to hang on the ball and look for those coverage beaters. That's what that is. Also, Jern, with Tom Brady and Hot Route Master, and he gets a blocking perk, doesn't he, as well?
Yeah,
Yeah, so he's only been sacked 10
it's not
times.
it's crazy.
Yeah. Sam Darnold's been sacked 13 times, and then it kind of just goes up from there. So just thought I'd give a shout out to the guys doing the best. But the one other point that I found interesting was both Jordan Love and Deshaun Watson and Russell. Um, I think is Russell Wilson. Yeah, this has changed, but at the time he only had 12 sacks. But those three are all very mobile, and so it makes sense that they would be sacked a little less frequently than some. But Sam Darnold and Drew Brees, both not mobile, both only had 13 and 14 sacks. So they're doing something right, getting rid of the ball. Just maybe just not to the right team. I mean, I'll have to look at
Mm,
what was it, Jay Stoppers? Yeah, Jay Stoppers. Sam Darnold's not getting sacked, but he's throwing a lot of picks with 34.
about even. 33 touchdowns too.
Yeah. So that wraps up the QBs. Then you go to the rushing, and you got Christian McCaffrey leading the league and by a lot, like 268 yards.
Yeah, it's not close.
It's not close. And the part of it that is blowing my mind is look at these broken tackles. Derrick Henry has 77, so that makes a ton of sense, right? Right beneath him is Christian McCaffrey with 62, and the next closest guy has 38. Like,
Yeah,
that
nice.
is bananas. All I'm saying, Christian McCaffrey has to be a glitch. Like, that's it.
Well, he's got abilities put on McCaffrey. I mean,
Well, I mean, I'm sure he does, but I mean, so does Ezekiel Elliott. You would think Elliott would be breaking nearly as many, don't you think?
maybe.
And then
Yeah,
the other
probably.
the other guy is Saquon Barkley. I mean, Barkley should have a ton of great abilities, and he's only broken 34. So, I mean, between those two guys, I mean, they are way out ahead for broken tackles. But yeah, and just the fact that McCaffrey is doing 1,800 yards, I mean, he's going to break that rushing record probably no problem.
Doing the Lord's work.
Yeah. And Zeke's right behind him, or not right behind him, but at 1,500 yards. And then this is kind of where everybody is sitting is 1,300. Your own DeAndre Swift, 1,300. You going for that rookie of the year? Is that
I
what's
am.
trying to
I'm
happen?
going for I'm going for rookie of the year. He's only going to get better too. He's like an 83 overall. When I get him to 85 and get that second ability,
Oh
it's
man,
going
I
to be
know it.
nasty.
My own Josh Jacobs. He had a really good week last week, so he's up
You have
above
a good average too.
1,000. Yeah, I
70
mean, he's
yards.
he's a great runner for me. Just my style, I don't read the holes real well, so at least if I make it to the hole, then he'll fall forward, so that's good.
He's a big
But
guy, yeah.
yeah, and then touchdowns. I mean, 22 for McCaffrey. He's already broken the TD record, I believe, or close to it. What is the TD record? Wasn't it like 21?
Yeah, I think LT had that. Ladainian
Yeah,
Tomlinson had that record.
yeah. So Derrick Henry right behind him, and then Zeke with 15. You're DeAndre Swift with 15. I'm at 13, so I feel good about that. Um, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, my counterpart with 12. He just played his week game, so he's kind of benefiting there from that. Jonathan Taylor with 12. Gardner Minshew with 11. Wait a minute. What is
Hmm.
happening here?
He's
11.
reoptioning.
There we go. So 11 TDs for Gardner Minshew, and he's thrown 26. So that takes him to 37 and 12. Interesting. Okay. So just so everybody knows, Gardner Minshew's gonna run the read option and be successful because that's a high number. Um, but yeah, just a lot of guys doing really well with their running backs. Pretty average
It's an
at that point.
offensive main game, man. Just
It
give it all up
absolutely
the
is.
offense.
And then let's see, average per game, broken tackles, longest yards after contact. Derrick Henry, of course, 747. So man, that's a
Of
lot.
course.
Yeah. And see, this makes a little bit more sense. I mean, you got Zeke Elliott, even though he's way behind him, I figure he'd be better at 460, and then Christian McCaffrey at 451. So it's like,
So what's happening here
uh
when I
huh.
see that McCaffrey, having the second most broken tackles, and then it's not even close.
Mm-hmm.
McCaffrey has that ability, probably freight train, where he's breaking his first tackle and then he's getting tackled almost immediately after. I mean, I'm not going to do the math on it, but 451 yards after 62 broken tackles, divide that down. It's not terribly
Yeah.
too much.
Right. And McCaffrey's averaging about 130 yards a game. Zeke with 109, and then Derrick Henry was about 98. So, yeah, I guess you're right. That's probably what it is, huh? It's just the freight train giving him those broken tackles, so it kind of makes it look
Mm-hmm.
a little worse. But his average is normal. I mean, he just gets his yards every game. I mean, 130 yard average, like that's
Mm-hmm.
excellent. So good work for C Dev on the rushing end of things. Um, and then we can hop on over to receiving. We got Tyreek Hill leading the league. Like I said, he just finished his game, so he gets the benefit of an extra game. Calvin Ridley with 1,500 yards. That's John's and my own. Ruggs with 1,400 yards. Even though, now that I can't just streak him, his average is going to come
I got
down a
to
little bit.
incorporate him somewhere.
That's
Yeah.
right. I got to run a few more ins, some shorter routes, and see if I can't get him the ball. But
32 yards per catch is pretty good.
yeah, not bad. Zay Jones, what the? Oh, yeah, it's because of the number of receptions. That's why.
This is what I wanted to talk to you about this. Look at the
Hmm.
next three. Look at the next three on the average per catch.
I see that J.J. Nelson, Kenny Galladay. That's all your guys. That's funny. Let's see, what's the average? So for receptions, you're looking about no more than 68 is the average. So then I guess if you go to what were we at? We were on average. Is that what we were looking
Mm-hmm.
at? So you got
Yep.
to be kind of in that 30 or 40. So Tyreek Hill, obviously, he's averaging 32 a catch. Deshaun Jackson with 32. Marquise Brown with about 30. Keenan Allen. A lot of 30-yard averages with guys between 25 and 30 catches, and
Mm-hmm.
I expect to see those numbers kind of come down now that defense has been patched. But still, I mean, 16, 1,700 yards. I didn't look up the the yardage record, but I did see that Samuels has already broken the TD record. So another C Dev All Star. He's got 24
Hill's hot on this
TDs.
case right now, though.
Yeah, Hill's right there, 23, and then after that it kind of falls off. But I mean, you can just see. I mean, I feel like I sound like a broken record about the defense. His defense was just so broken early that we're gonna have half the league probably breaking the original TD record.
Yeah.
But and I mean, probably won't really look too much at the wide receivers beyond what we've just already talked about between yards and their average because it's gonna be too skewed. Like rack isn't even worth looking at. Obviously, all these guys are gonna have massive
Mm-hmm.
amounts of rack. So we can jump over to defense to kind of round everything out. Um, Tackles I usually don't like to look at just because a lot of that's CPU and sim related stuff. Even though we haven't had a ton of sims, but
Dolphins
tackle
playing a
for
lot of
loss.
defense.
Yeah, clearly.
Number one and two.
Tackles for loss, though, you got Jonathan Allen and Calais Campbell, Geno Atkins, and Devon Godshaw. I don't know that dude.
Don't
All
know me
sitting
either.
about mid teens for their tackles for loss. Bobby Wagner doing well, and then we roll over to sacks, and once again the Panthers just dominating every stat category possible. Brian Burns, the sack leader right now, with 16 and a half. But then you got Daniil Hunter. That was slimy before he left at 13 and a half. And then Mikey's DeForest Buckner with 13.5, and he's been quiet the last few games because I know he's been sitting at 13.5 for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of a surprise. And then you got
My,
what's that?
I've got no defense at all, so I don't have. I mean, I don't even think I have a player with 5 sacks on the year. If I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, I would imagine. I can't imagine I do either. My defensive line isn't really that great. Miles Garrett with 10.5, Chris Jones with 10.5, and then it kind of evens out the rest of the way. Surprise, Khalil Mack with 6.5, Fletcher Cox with 6.5. These are guys that in the PS4 league would have had 13 or 15 by now, but
Hmm.
pass rush just isn't
Oh,
isn't really there.
what the heck? I was just looking at team stats, right? And the
Hmm.
Panthers is number 1 in sacks, 50 by a mile.
Yeah,
But I'm number 2.
you
How
probably just
does
get
that work?
you just probably get a lot of coverage sacks from multiple guys. Oh, and probably your DBs get sacks too, sending that cover two sink cheese at people.
I guess I've got so one person does have 6, but he doesn't have enough tackles to make the list to be included in the full NFL. 6, 4, 4, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 2, 2. Yeah, I've just got a bunch of coverage sacks and random sacks.
Yeah, just a culmination of solid defense and coverage sacks probably.
Hmm.
And then we got the INTs, which is your Duron Harmon at 13, your free safety. Is that your user
Oh, no
player?
way. I'm
Yeah,
leading that. No,
you're
he's not
leading.
my user at all. I'm leading
No,
that though, huh?
yeah, right now with 13, and then you got Ashton Davis, who I think wasn't he a Jets player that's like crazy fast, or am I thinking of somebody else?
Good question. I have no idea.
I
Wow,
feel,
he's a rookie
feel
though.
yeah,
12
I feel like he
INTs.
might have been, but yeah, he's got
Jay
12
Suffer's user maybe.
INTs. Uh, Maybe Micah Hyde with 7 or with 10, and Derwin James with 10. Oh, we got Esteens Thornhill with 10, so he's doing pretty well. I saw him get at least one in the stream today. And then we got Perry Nickerson of the Panthers, which was probably when he had him at safety, breaking the rules with 10. But that dude's crazy fast, 96 speed, I think. And then it kind of evens out from there. Fred Warner with 8, which is pretty nice. But yeah, I don't know that I've even got a player on this list unless I missed him. There we go. Earl Thomas.
Woo. Yeah, I think I'm about to talk. I think he muted because his dog went off.
Yeah, he started to bark. I had to let my family in. They got pizza, so
Ooh.
but yeah, so that's pretty much the list for INTs, and then I guess we could go back and check through TDs and see who's got the most. Derwin James with 6 TDs. That's pretty
Oof.
legit. That's a load, and I got to play him this week. Can't say I'm happy about that. Deion Jones with
It just
3.
drops off after that to 3. Yeah, a bunch
Yeah,
of people have 3.
and that makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's kind of hard to get to run back a lot of these pick sixes, especially with the way movement works. Kenny Moore with 3. Um, but yeah, I mean, generally speaking, got some pretty big outliers here and there, but overall, I think the stats look pretty normal. Um, so yeah, we'll have to see how the next season kind of pans out because
Hmm.
I expect it to be quite a bit different. So
Definitely, it will be different.
that'll wrap up the stats segment here. Then we got what would we call this? I don't know. What would you want to call this segment, Greg?
And on the spot top 10.
An on the spot top 10. There you go. I like it.
Done
Perfect.
immediately, super quick, without any real thought put into it. And it's going to be quick. I'm not going to talk about the teams really very much. So I'm just going to ramble through them all. Okay, so like I said, this was done very last minute because Mikey couldn't join us. And Mikey didn't forward me anything. So this is just my take on it right now. I've got the Eagles at number 10. They're 8-5. That's freshly baked buns. He's got 2 straight wins.
Woo.
At number 9, I've got the Raiders, KK, our very own,
What?
8-5 as
I
well.
made a top 10. I like it.
Yeah. And the reason you're ahead of Buns, you got 3 straight wins. So I mean,
Right.
it's just the way it is. I got the Ravens at 9-4 at number 8.
New
Uh,
user too. We got Coach Willie
yeah,
coming in, taking
Willie.
them over.
So I might have them higher if I knew. what he was gonna do, but I don't.
Right. He
At
does have one
7, I've
win.
got he does. At 7, I've got the Chiefs, who's Devin, 10 and
Right.
4. At 6, I've got myself, 10 and 4.
There you go.
At 5, I've got Penn, who's the Jags, 9 and
Wow,
4.
look at that. Penn, what's it? Oh, there he is, 9-4. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
At number 4, I've got the Bucks, who's Jern, and he's
Right.
also 9 and 4.
And I think Istine would have something to say about that, Coach Devin, because he did put one win down on Jern right there recently.
Did he?
He did, but I'll
Yeah, I
forgive
was
it
done.
because it
I
was a
went so quick.
hustling top 10. So no worries.
And then the top 3 are just kind of no-brainers. At number 3, I got the Giants.
Hmm.
That's the Rashawn the Designer, 12 and 1. Number 2, I've got the Panthers, the C-Dev kid, 13 and 1.
Right.
And at number 1, I've got Manny, 13 and 0. If you're undefeated, you deserve to be on the top of that list.
I would say that's a pretty solid top 10 given the amount of time you had to throw it together. Um, Makes sense. I'm happy to be on the top 10. I don't know how long I'll be there because I'm 8 and
Hey, win
5.
your next 3 games and you'll be there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Like I said, I know you see it. My, well, I'm his biggest fan, so hopefully I get to put a beating down on him and get a win there. So we'll see if I can stay up there and maybe inch up a little bit. So not bad. I approve of the top 10.
Well, thank you.
Right. And then I figured we could round everything out with a recap of the contender pretender segment I did before, because I'm sure there's a lot of guys on this list in varying spots that probably would like to have words with me, because I would just say that, like, the Bills for one. That's our very own Manny, 13-0. I said he was a pretender early because he had a really, really soft schedule. Um,
Oof.
and clearly I was wrong on that end. So I got to give credit where credit's due. He's not. He's definitely not a pretender. I knew he wasn't anyway, but more or less had to call him out for giggles just because of his schedule being soft, and give him some motivation, because that's what everybody needs, is a pissed off Manny in the league.
Yep.
Um, Beat down, I know you see it, and then went on to play the Niners and Jay Stopper. Wait a minute, what am I saying? I mean, look at that soft ass schedule. Like, he still hasn't played anybody.
It is pretty soft,
He's
but
gonna he's gonna play the
he's
Broncos,
undefeated.
and then he's gonna play the Patriots, and then he's gonna play the Rams. He is going 16-0. That's my prediction.
Unless Slick can pull something out of his ass, yeah, he's gonna go 16 and 0.
Unless what? Unless my what did you say? Miami?
Unless Slick can pull something out of his
No,
ass.
he doesn't even play slick.
What? Slick's the Rams, isn't he? Did he
No.
move teams?
Wait a minute. Explosive Squirts is the Dolphins. I think I probably misspoke. He plays the Broncos, the Patriots,
Oh.
and the Dolphins.
Oh, you said Rams. Yeah. I was
Yes.
like, oh,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah. Istine's calling me out. He's saying I said Rams by accident. But yeah, so he plays Dolphins. So
Yeah,
I
he'll win
don't
out.
see. Yeah, I'm sure he'll win out. That won't be a problem. So I'll take my lumps on calling Manny a pretender. Um, the one I would take issue with right now is I did call Mikey a contender, and I don't know if that's necessarily the truth at this point.
I
Um,
don't even know if he's gonna make the playoffs.
I mean, it's entirely possible. Are you looking at the standings right now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so where does he stand in his division? Like, is how many games out?
He'd be second. He's 1 game behind Penn.
He's one game behind Penn, and what's his record?
8 and 5.
8-5. But he has dropped two straight. One to the lowly Raiders, who actually made a top 10, but it wasn't Mikey, so we know he's going to throw that one right out the window. He lost to Manny, the Texans user, and
Division game.
yeah. And so, I mean, he had rattled off three straight, but he's got two losses hanging over the top of him. And then he gets to play Manny again, and that was not close the last time they played. Then he
He
gets
needs to win that game.
he does absolutely need to win that game, and then he's got to play the Steelers, and then he's got to finish out the season with Penn. So I would say that I think I got that one wrong too. So apparently I just get nothing but wrong at this point. So I'm gonna say Mikey is definitely not a contender. He is a pretender. So I made that mistake. Tried to give him the benefit of the doubt, and now I'm paying for it because I am wrong.
I think he goes 10-6, and he makes the playoffs. I wouldn't say like obviously Penn's gonna go probably 12-4, but I think he at least makes the playoffs.
Yeah, well, like I said, he's one of those players that kind of gets in his own head, I think, and he knows he lost two in a row, and then he's got to play the Texans. I could see him losing that game, and then the wheels fall off, and he has to play Jay Stopper. But we all know Jay Stopper's out here handing out free wins, so we'll have to see how the rest of that shakes out. I gotta tag Mikey right here and call him a pretender in chat. Here we go. There we go. He'll like that. And then let's see. We had the Giants. That's the other one. He actually went ahead and put his name pretender in the list. And clearly, what's his record right now? He's got one. He's got one loss. Yeah, 12-1. So clearly he's not a pretender. So I got another one wrong. So I'm 0 for 3 at this point. And he's routing people. A 46-13 win. What's that?
He's got a cake division.
Oh, so you're calling him
toughest,
a pretender now? Is that what's happening?
He beat Jern. He beat the shit out of Jern. But Jern is the only quality opponent I think he's really played. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, you're agreeing with me that he is a pretender. Then is that what you're trying to say? Just like Manny, because they've had soft schedules this entire season. Is that what you're trying to say?
So here's what it is. I know Manny's good. I don't know for sure that this almighty guy is good, but I believe he could win out the rest of his games and go 15-1.
Yeah.
He might lose. He might lose to Willie Nelson. I don't know. Willie's probably the second best user he's gonna play.
Well, Virix has played pretty well. I lost my game to him. It was close, but I still lost. And then we got Shango of the Cowboys. So I guess I would probably agree with what you're saying is that Willie's going to be the toughest out. Then the Browns following, and I hate to say it, Shango, but I think it's an easy win for him over the Cowboys. So
Buns gave him hell, 23-17. That game was close.
Yeah. I mean, that was probably his other toughest game that he had.
Yep.
Because everything else, he's hanging a lot of points on guys. So I got to give him credit that he is definitely not a pretender. It's early to tell, and I'll be anxious to see another schedule come out next season and see where he rounds out. But that makes me 0 for 3 on the pretenders. 0 for 3 on the contenders and pretenders. But I take a small victory in the fact that I called Mikey a contender, and I turned out to be wrong. So it's like, I mean, it's not that bad. And then let's see, pretender. We got the Eagles is one of my other ones that I had, which is our very own Buns, and what's his record now?
He's 8-5.
8-5.
I don't know if you can really say one way or the other.
Well, looking back in the last 5 weeks, I mean, he's on a 2-game win streak and with solid amounts of points, but he did take a 3-game loss streak between the Giants, the Browns, and the Seahawks. And see, this is what I mean about the Browns is, I mean, the Browns beat him, and it wasn't a force, so the Browns has got to be pretty decent because Buns is no slouch.
Lost 3 in a row.
That's rough. But yeah, so this, I guess, maybe I'm not necessarily wrong, but I'm not. I wouldn't want to take it as a victory that I'm right. I mean, he's still got a winning record. He's going to play Serb of the Cardinals, then he's going to play Shango, and then finish the season with Quiet Storm of the Washington football team. So if I know him, he should win out, and he'll wind up being 11-5 to finish the season. That's my assumption. Do you have any contradictory evidence? Yeah, I would say so.
No, I agree with that 100%.
So, God damn it, that makes me 0-4. So this is not working out at all. We can go back to the contender side of things. We got the Bengals, which that's going to be a tough one because we lost him as a user, did we not?
Yeah, he left.
He left, and so we got to kind
He's
of
on a
throw.
3-game win streak though.
Well,
I don't know
perfect.
how that happens.
I can chalk that up as a win. 1-4. Let just give me that. Just give me one win, Greg. Come on.
Who is he? Who's the new Bengals user? I don't even
It's
know.
Durpole.
He must be decent.
Yeah, he must be doing okay. I mean, he's coming in, playing good defense, 24-7 against explosive squirts, and then he beat Shango 21-10, and then just put a hurting on Jay Stopper. So he's definitely playing well. So we'll go ahead and give myself a one win out of four or out of five so far.
A W.
And then the Buccaneers is our other contender that I had, which,
I'd
what's
agree with
Jern's
that.
record right now? He's 10-4
9-4.
or 9-4. That's what I meant. So he just didn't do me any favors by losing to Devin. I don't know what he was doing, if he was playing like one-handed or something, or what was going on, because Jern's supposed to be really, really good, and he just let that game get away from him. Lost it 45 to
Especially a hot
42.
route master.
I know. He's got everything at his disposal, and he just drops the game. Like, what's the deal? But God, is he not putting up points? I mean, he's probably averaging 30, 35 to 42 points a game almost. Just
Yes.
beat, just beat the new Vikings owner. He's got to finish out playing John, and then you, and then John. So he's got a tough
Yeah, that's a
three-game
toughie.
stretch. So that'll be interesting to see. But I'll chalk that one up as a victory to myself. 2-4, 2-4 so far is the total. But that was all I had for the contenders. So the remaining guys are the Vikings. Was another pretender who left. So I'm going to scratch that one. And then we got the Chiefs. So that's our very own Esteen. Obviously proving that he was not a pretender on this list. I tried to get out ahead of it against him by taking the first game against him, and then he put the beat down on me in the second game. So clearly he's sitting at is it a 2-game advantage or 1-game
1 game
advantage
if you
over
win.
me if I win. So um, clearly he's contending everywhere. I guess I can go take a look at his schedule here real quick. Since that segment, I mean, he played me, beat me 38-20, then beat Jern, like I had said, then played Enharmonic, the Broncos owner, beat him.
So
Played a close
Devin's
game.
smoking.
Yeah, played a close game though with um, the Dolphins, which is our very own Explosive Squirts. Great name. And then just played a game against Frizzle of the Saints. So he's doing everything right now. He's got a massive win streak going for him. He's got 5 in a row.
A lot of points scored.
Yeah, he's scoring points, and then he gets to finish out the season against John, and then I know you see it. So clearly I was wrong. He's a contender, but I mean, is it really a surprise he's a contender with like the number one Madden team?
With the Madden team that's banned from competitive play. Yeah.
Right. I mean, so maybe if he had a weaker team, he wouldn't be contending quite as much. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah. I
So
understand where you're coming from.
I'll take the accountability for my segment of the contender pretender, and I only got 2 right, and I would venture to guess that more than likely it's closer to 1 right, just because I forget who it was that I gave myself credit for. I think it was the Colts. Was it Buns? I don't remember now. But yeah,
Not
so
sure.
I was pretty wrong, guys. I'll admit it. I was pretty wrong on my segment. But, we don't always have to be right. Just have to be entertaining sometimes. So that'll wrap up this kind of brief podcast. We had been talking on the podcast that we wanted to do maybe them a bit more frequent, and they would not be as long. And so in the upcoming weeks, you'll find that there'll be varying get like hosts during each segment, like because sometimes there's four of us or five of us, but if we're going to start doing a couple more, it'll probably be pared down to a couple guys who can get on at a designated time each time. So look for a little bit more frequent podcasts, but
Diversity.
yeah, a little more diverse number of hosts and maybe a few fewer hosts at a time. So that'll wrap up this week's podcast and let everybody get to the national championship game, which I think is probably kicking off real quick, right? Didn't you say
Yeah,
7?
it said 7, but they don't ever kick off right on time. I don't think they've kicked off yet.
Yeah, so
It just
perfect.
shows 15 minutes. So yeah,
Yeah,
we cut this perfectly.
good timing. So thanks for joining me this week, Greg, and we'll see you guys later.
Peace out, guys.